By the way, Chris is going to raise our weather IQ on bird migrations. Many headed this way now.
I was just going to say one thing about geese. A lot of people misunderstand them because they make a mess and they're all over the place. But they can be trained. My grandfather had 2 geese, Willie and Millie.
Oh my gosh!
And they had little geese, little family. So and they were pets. Yeah.
But I thought they were meat. No, that's
they
swans.
can be. They can be. Willie would occasionally defend Millie, and he would chase you and peck you as you ran.
Did they do any tricks?
Yeah, they bite you in the butt. That's a trick they do.
When they hiss at you, it's frightening.
Yeah. I mean, they can be, but it's protected. You know, in our part, they have a lot of nests locally. You will see them in parks and sometimes in parking lots. Quite often, they'll build a nest. They're very protective of that, but they're
which is normal.
They're animals.
Which is
they're
normal.
Part of America.
They're part of America.
Animals do.
I mean,
Yeah.
even the Canadian geese come down and visit us.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, let's talk about your bird migration forecast. Why not, right? So I have a bunch of unique science sites that I like to look at, and this one actually called Birdcast. And I'm showing you the forecast, but you can actually go back over the last several weeks even and see the predictive patterns of what these birds have been doing. And what's really interesting, tonight they're estimating that 14 million birds are expected to move. Now, you might think of migration that it's always Canada to Jamaica as the movie goes. But if we're talking about migration, sometimes it's just state to state where they can kind of fluctuate this time of year where maybe they're going to move to Texas and they move back to Oklahoma. So it just all depends. But it's interesting because we have the ideal weather conditions. It's going to be a large migration really from Texas in between Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. But if we advance it to tomorrow night, it's actually more of the southeast that we're seeing a little bit more from Florida and the southeast as well. And what was really interesting looking back on the fact, and I don't think that we have this over on graphics 10, but before the storm came, okay, we can actually see that. Before the storm came, we actually saw a little influx of activity that was happening here off towards the east, but after the storms left, you actually saw a little increase you're starting to see in Texas, meaning that everything's in clear. Because I've done a story on this before, that birds have something special in the brain so they can sense the pressure changes as the weather is starting to change, and oftentimes they also will change their migration around weather systems where they're almost like surface maps that sometimes you can see around hurricanes, that the birds are literally in the outer bands following around it. So pretty neat here.